Welcome to Paranomious, where the shadows whisper and true stories blur the line between reality and nightmare. Every encounter shared here is real and far more disturbing than fiction. Dare to listen?
Some houses have a way of hiding their secrets, quiet walls that keep their stories buried until someone new comes along to wake them up. For the narrator, what began as a peaceful living arrangement in 2021 soon unraveled into a chilling series of nights that would blur the line between the living and the dead. What seemed like an ordinary family home quickly proved to be anything but ordinary. The narrator had moved into a relative's house, and at first, the setup couldn't have been better. The family member was rarely home, splitting time between a partner and their duties at the firehouse. This meant the narrator had the space almost entirely to themselves. Days were calm, nights were still, and the silence of the empty house felt like a blessing. But sometimes, silence is only the calm before the storm. For a couple of weeks, nothing disturbed the peace. It was the kind of quiet living most people dream of, routine days and restful nights. But one night, that illusion shattered. The narrator was asleep when a thunderous slam jolted them awake. It wasn't the casual creak of an old house settling, nor the faint thud of a draft pulling a door shut. No, this was violent, sharp, and intentional, the kind of sound that makes your blood run cold. Heart pounding, the narrator immediately reached for a weapon, dialing their mother for comfort and safety, keeping her on speakerphone while they searched the house room by room. Every closet was opened, every shadow inspected, but the house stood empty. Trying to dismiss it as perhaps a vivid dream, the narrator convinced themselves to let it go. But that explanation didn't hold for long. The following nights brought the same violent slamming, always in the dead of night, always enough to pull the narrator out of sleep in terror. The noise echoed with a force that was impossible to ignore. It happened so consistently that denial became impossible. Something was there, and it wanted to be noticed. Things escalated further when the narrator's mother decided to stay over. Having someone else in the house brought comfort, but also validation. One night, the familiar slam reverberated again through the walls. The narrator startled awake, only to hear their mother react as well. From her separate room, she too had heard it, loud and unmistakable. The phenomenon was no longer confined to one person's experience. It was real, undeniable, and shared. But the slamming was just the beginning. Weeks later, another night brought something far more personal, far more chilling. The narrator had just returned from a friend's house and was adjusting the blinds when the air shifted. A voice, low, near, intimate, whispered their name directly into their ear. The narrator froze, paralyzed by the closeness of it. There was no one else in the room, and yet the whisper was so clear as it might as well have been a person leaning in. Before they could even process the whisper, chaos erupted. The aurora lights in the room flicked on by themselves, casting the walls in strange, shifting colors. At the same time, the Bluetooth speaker suddenly powered up, declaring "Bluetooth connected." But what followed was even more unnerving. The speaker began to emit distorted sounds. Not music, not static, but garbled, broken fragments of what almost seemed like a voice trying to speak. Words were hidden in the noise, though none could be made out clearly. Something was trying to communicate, but its message remained trapped in static.
The narrator stood frozen as the impossible unfolded before their eyes, lights and technology responding to something unseen, a whisper echoing in their ear. Whatever lived in that house had revealed itself beyond a doubt. Yet the most haunting moment was still to come. One evening, while preparing food in the kitchen, the narrator caught sight of movement in the corner of their vision. Turning to look, they saw him. A man. He stood there plainly, short black hair, a simple white t-shirt and blue jeans. His appearance wasn't dramatic or ghostly. He looked real, tangible, as though he had simply walked into the house. But his style was oddly dated, like someone out of the 1970s. The narrator froze, adrenaline coursing through their body, staring at the figure that stood so naturally in the room, and then he vanished. Shaken, the narrator called their mother immediately, relaying every detail of what they had seen. On the other end of the line came a heavy silence, followed by her careful words. "That's my dad. That's how he always dressed." The weight of that realization settled like ice. The narrator hadn't seen a stranger. They had seen their grandfather, a man long gone, yet standing there, as clear as day. From that moment, the atmosphere of the house shifted. The fear that had once gripped the narrator now carried a strange mix of dread and familiarity. Was the spirit a protective presence, trying to connect? Or was it something far more sinister, wearing the face of family to gain trust? The strange activity continued regardless. Doors still slammed in the night. The dog barked at empty corners of the house, growling at what couldn't be seen. And more than once, the narrator swore they felt someone watching, standing just beyond reach, hovering in silence. To this day, the mystery lingers. The house remains unsettled, carrying an energy that refuses to fade. Was it truly the spirit of a grandfather reaching across the veil to be seen? Or was it something darker, something masquerading as a loved one to draw the living closer? These questions remain unanswered, and perhaps they always will. What the narrator experienced blurs the line between comfort and terror, between family and the unknown. Sometimes, what haunts a place isn't necessarily evil, it's simply restless. But sometimes, the most convincing face it wears may not belong to who we think it is. And that is what makes this story so chilling. The possibility that what we see may not be what we think we're seeing. This story leaves us with a chilling dilemma. On one hand, the figure seen in the house may have been the spirit of the narrator's grandfather, watching over his family, still tethered to the home he once knew. On the other hand, paranormal investigators often warn that not everything that appears familiar has good intentions. Spirits, if that's truly what they are, may imitate loved ones to earn trust, hiding something far more malevolent underneath the surface. The truth remains unknown, but what's clear is that this house carries a heavy energy, one that continues to manifest through sound, whispers, apparitions, and unexplainable disturbances. Whether it's a loved one refusing to let go or something far more sinister, the house itself seems to hold its own story, one that may never fully be revealed. What do you think? Was the narrator truly visited by their grandfather's spirit? Or was something else hiding behind the face of family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy hearing real-life stories like this, paranormal encounters that leave us questioning the boundaries between our world and the next, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who love the unexplained. Because sometimes, the scariest stories aren't the ones told in books or movies. They're the ones people live through, in houses just like this one.